Abrams was on CNN, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago. Well, she is basically trying very hard to become Joe Biden's VP nominee. This was her defense of Joe Biden when it came to the sexual assault allegations. Now, let us get on with the clip.
Who wants to be his vice president? I think it's important that we speak about something that's in the news now. As you know, there is a sexual assault allegation against Joe Biden. The accuser, her name is Tara Reid, tells CNN that the alleged incident happened in 1993 while she was working as an aide in Biden's Senate office. She is claiming that she was delivering Biden a duffel bag and says that Biden had her up against the wall in a corridor on the Hill and violated her with his fingers. Now, CNN has now spoken on the record with her former neighbor, who says Reid told her about the allegation within a few years of the alleged incident. Biden's campaign says untrue, never happened. Is this a credible allegation?
I believe that women deserve to be heard, and I believe that they need to be listened to. But I also believe that those allegations have to be investigated by credible sources. The New York Times did a deep investigation, and they found that the accusation was not credible. I believe Joe Biden. I believe that he is a person who has demonstrated that his love of family, his love of our community has been made perfectly clear through his work as a congressional leader and as an American leader. I know Joe Biden, and I think that he is telling the truth and that this did not happen.
So in 2018, you tweeted it was shameful that Brett Kavanaugh's Supreme Court nomination was being rushed forward, and survivors of violence like Christine Blasey Ford deserve to have their voices heard. Are you applying a different standard now?
Not at all. I believe then and I believe now that women deserve to be heard because too often they are not. And Tara Reid deserved to have her story listened to and investigated. What was happening to Christine Blasey Ford is that there was no investigation. There was a rush to move the conversation forward so that no investigation was conducted. And as I said, I believe that those allegations needed to be investigated, and I believe that the New York Times and subsequent reports support what the Biden campaign has said. And I believe Joe Biden.
So you said you've heard her, you've heard enough, you don't believe her, you believe Joe Biden.
No, what I'm saying is that the New York Times investigation of her allegations, the New York Times investigation does not support the accusations against the vice president. I believe the Biden I know, and I think that he will make women proud, that he will make America proud.
Does Joe Biden personally need to address this more directly and publicly?
I believe his campaign has been very clear, and I believe that that is the approach that they intend to take, and I support the approach because, again, we don't want women to ever be afraid to come forward, but we also have to recognize that allegations should be investigated and that those investigations need to be borne out.
Stacey. Right.
Afraid to come forward.
I'm gonna use this. So, Stacey, you're holding a double standard. It is. Basically, you are a hypocrite like Alyssa Milano. First, you were like, when it came to the whole Brett Kavanaugh thing, you were like, it is shameful about how his Supreme Court nomination will be rushed when they won't do an investigation of Christine Blasey Ford. And the New York Times reporting was not an investigation. A real investigation would be basically to subpoena the evidence, to basically talk to the victim and talk to the person who did this stuff. First of all, Joe Biden has not responded. His campaign has responded. And literally, this... Okay, so her, Kirsten Gillibrand, and I think Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar, this was leaked by BuzzFeed News, are using the same defense to defend Joe Biden. First of all, it showed the opposite. Basically, the reporting showed the opposite. It showed basically for the side of Tara Reid. And there's are evidence to back her up, and the University of Delaware has the records about the whole sexual assault thing, where Tara Reid filed a complaint because they have all of Joe Biden's Senate records. So let's do something. Let's basically pressure the governor. Let's basically pressure the university to release those documents for basically the information. And it wasn't reporting, and also the New York Times is not always credible. Sorry, Stacey, but the New York Times ain't always credible. And Stacey, you basically just sold us out now. I gave you a chance by basically just going like, okay, that donation from Bloomberg, okay, that's just a donation. Doesn't mean she's going to be Bloomberg's VP. Then, next, here it is. Next, she goes and defends Joe Biden when it comes to the sexual assault allegation. For real. This is just to basically do it for a gain of power to be his VP nominee. Well, really, Stacey Abrams doesn't really have that much significance. She might basically help Joe Biden narrowly win Georgia, but there's barely any significance to it. She might win more black voters in the South, which, meh. Like, Joe Biden should pick Nina Turner or somebody else like Breonna Joy Gray. Or a Barbara Lee. Or Shia Tlaib. That's who she should pick. Plain and simple. Basically, everybody's trying to be on Joe Biden's good graces so they can gain power. And also when it came to Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, and she basically wanted to make herself look like a person who supported the Me Too movement, but when it came to Joe Biden, like, I believe in Joe Biden. Wow, double standard. Like, completely, it's a double standard. Basically using the same stuff. And then, I remember, in the second Democratic debate, you tried to attack Joe Biden when it came to this one thing. This, like, quote he said. Something about, like, a woman not being in the kitchen caused the deterioration of family. And then basically Joe Biden kicked your ass on that part of the debate. That was the only time where Joe Biden was actually smart. And we should be asking Joe Biden, not these people. Duh. Also, Joe Biden said he's not going to pick... It's basically been narrowed down that he's not going to pick a woman of color. Thanks for watching, guys. Like, share, and subscribe.